you should do a little research on it and find out. Patty Moore, she's an incredible astrologer. Incredible, actually. She's very good at what she does. And does anyone know what her site's called? VedicAstrologyBlog.com, and you can just read up on what's going on in the planets, and it's just an interesting add-in to your general understanding of the flow of life. I mean, because what happens above happens below. That's what the old saying is. So when you start to really look at that as being a possibility, then you start to see that there's always a rhyme and reason and an ebb and a flow to everything that we do. So it's this concept of surrendering to the reality of that. And there's a lot of freedom that's found within it. Just surrendering to the flow. It doesn't mean no effort, it just means no force, which is a beautiful thing. So how is everyone? Good. Very good. And meditation is progressing? Good. That's the secret to meditation, is consistency. Consistency and realizing that the meditation is doing its work no matter what is happening in your mind. The mind could be the most chaotic place, but the meditation is still doing the work underneath what the mind is showing you. Jade and I had a great conversation with Dr. Kristen Yant over Skype, talking about neuroscience and meditation. And she was talking to us exactly about that topic. It doesn't necessarily matter what's going on within the mind, but when you close your eyes and you do your breathing and you're focusing your attention on the body, the breath, and the mind, the positive effects are there. So the well-being is increasing, the stress is decreasing on a chemistry level, on a biological level. The mind is like the long game. So the mind will find its resting place when it's ready to find its resting place. And that's a great outlook, I feel, to have with any friendship. So the mind is a friendship. And if you allow the mind to just express itself as it needs to express itself, it will begin to slow down slowly. Also, in a good friendship, there is one side of the friendship that may know a little bit more than the other side. So then that one side of the friendship holds space for the other side to find that place. And that is your conscious side. So consciously you understand that the mind must find this resting place. The mind is full going. So you are the one who knows, which is then giving the instruction and holding space for the mind to slow itself down. Like right now. And when we give space for the mind to express itself, then the mind begins to feel that it has a purpose and that it's working with a meaning. The mind is a bit of an attention seeker. The mind really wants approval that it is showing you the right images and that you are listening to those images to take you to where you need to go. So if you are one of those people or one of those minds that are showing images and we're not necessarily consciously listening, well then that becomes a bit of a deficit for the mind and the attention that it needs. So really this is the practice, is sifting through all of that which you are not understanding from the mind and getting to the place of understanding as to what the mind is attempting to explain. Because remember, the mind is just a tool that is expressing a message from a deeper place, to the place of your own personal understanding. You ask the question and you receive the answer. And in receiving the answer, we're legitimately receiving that answer. But so often we don't accept that what the mind is showing us is actually correct. And potentially what the mind is showing us is not correct. That's the thing. That's the beauty of your intuition. That's the beauty of your instinct, that potentially the mind is not yet ready to show you the correct image. And a part of that is the incredible amount of multitasking that we have. So the mind is spliced in as many directions as you feel, or that you see, or that you're pulled in. And we're designed really to do one task at a time. There might be 10 things to do, but we do them one at a time ideally. Not 10 at a time. So the weakness within the mind, even though it's so powerful, is that it's not able to sustain itself as a strong messenger when it has too much to do. So the simplicity within the complexity is the ideal. Slowing the game down. No matter what. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter who is around you. Continuously attempting to slow the game down. And often we attempt to slow the game down externally first. So we say, wait a minute, you all need to slow down. But it doesn't necessarily work so well because nobody else wants to slow down per se. So it becomes an importance of internally slowing your own personal game down. It doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form what anyone else is doing. And to slow that game down is then to rest into the meditative quality of the mind and the body, which is connecting to consciousness. And the bridge between the body, the mind, and consciousness is your breathing. So your breathing becomes the common thread between the three. And that simple exercise of taking deep inhales and exhales begins to influence positively the nervous system, which allows you to find a comfortable resting place. And see the mind for what it is, this messenger. So we can no longer blame the messenger because it is only the messenger. So instead we have to take this incredible opportunity to tone the skills of listening and interpreting these signs. Because ultimately that's what we are looking for all the time. We're always looking for the sign, is what is the right way to go and how do I get to that next place. So to begin to develop a meditation around the deepening of your own personal understanding into how to slow things down and how to interpret the signs that the mind is showing you, is then to become a very clear communicator with yourself. And if we're able to clearly communicate with ourselves, then we are inevitably going to become incredibly clear communicators with the people around us. Slowing it down so that we get the opportunity to experience the moment for the moment, and nothing more and nothing less. Knowing very well that there's a past and memory that we keep flipping through as our wisdom component. Knowing very well that there's a future, that foresight that we're always looking into to attempt to forecast what's going to happen next. But using the two as exactly that. Not the forever tell-all, but the wisdom from the past and the foresight into the future. So if you can attempt to develop that relationship and then successfully engage in that relationship, well then that is great information in order to ground into this present moment. You know exactly what you did last time you were sitting in meditation, last time you were here in Wednesday's class. So in order to optimize the experience, then what do you do now? And what's determining now is then if you were to do this now, then what happens for you in the future, meaning the next time you sit in meditation or the next Wednesday class. So allowing it to support your decisions that you're making right now. And that is the gift and that is the glory of meditation. Because meditation cancels out all of the noise that is no longer necessary. In a sense, giving you enough context so that you are no longer afraid of yourself. And that component of fear is a natural experience. The fear of this concept of the unknown. We do not know what will happen next, which then creates the excitement inside, which then rallies the reaction in order to take the next steps. Whether that be the subtle twitches within your body because you do not know how long you're going to be sitting and you do not want to be uncomfortable, or whether that be thinking about the solutions within your mind and keeping the solutions going because for fear that if you stop thinking about what is the solution, then you will not come to that solution. Becoming restful is then to become contemplative. To become contemplative is then to become insightful with your position within the moment. Insight. Insight becomes a huge benchmark within the practice of meditation. Vipassana. This is Vipassana means insight. Insight meditation. The whole meditation is revolving around the concept of understanding who we are and why we're here through the avenue of insight in towards oneself, which is the same thing as saying self-inquiry into oneself. It's a beautiful experience. The more you know yourself, the more access you have to know the people around you, the circumstances, the environment. The more we can develop an understanding of the circumstance, the people, and the environment, the better decision makers we are. The clearer we can make a decision, the more calm and relaxed the mind, because we are true with that decision. We are happy with that decision. And because we have our wisdom and our foresight, we become calculated. So we've given it our all. In all angles, in all the degrees of our experience, we are applying our 100% through effort, not force. So it becomes responsive and no longer reactive. Effort is at a maximum. Force is at a minimum. You become one with the ebb and flow. You finally surrender to the fact that the stars and the energy that they have are truly having an impact on the experience that you're having today. And instead of fighting your life, we become one with our life and working with what we have. So your challenges and your obstacles are exactly that. No matter how fast you attempt to run away from them, they will be right there with you. So turning around is your meditation practice, and sitting and taking it now head on. And at first it feels choppy and bumpy and like you're getting pushed around, but very quickly you find the solid, developed, grounded moment, which then leads you to the decisions that one needs to make in order to have a peaceful mind. Your responses to your environment is what will invoke this peaceful experience of mind. And that is then meditation in action. Meditation in practice is taking your experience, the beautiful, warm and fuzzy feeling that you get from your meditation, opening your eyes and then moving from that place. Responding to the flow of energy that is inside of you and the growing levels of consciousness, And that is a beautiful thing just in its own. So your view of the world is basically your level of consciousness. You see this much. Your mind says, this is the borders of my life. But really, it's borderless. There's no borders. So what defines this level of consciousness is the openness or the understanding that is there. Not through the intellectual avenue, but through the experiential avenue. On a cellular level, so embodying that which you are experiencing as consciousness. Not as something that you will then explain to your friend that this happened to me and it was so great, but as a legitimate expansion. The mind expands into the next level of its work, of its understanding, of its experience. And all of this happens because you are now responding from the flow of your meditation. It's flowing through you. That warm and fuzzy sensation that you get, it's flowing through you. So if you begin to let go of the idea of stilling your mind to a place where you have a spiritual experience, and you really ground into the reality that you are that, and it is happening within the chemistry of the body, within the anatomy of the body. It's communicating through the nervous system. And the mind is actually one of the last pieces to catch on. Then all of a sudden you free yourself from a huge burden of trying to catch a horse which does not want to be caught. So this is the metaphor of attempting to catch a wild horse or any horse. If you've anyone who has ever attempted with a bridle, as soon as the horse sees you have a bridle, it's running. Because I don't want to be caught. Why would you want to put this thing on and you get on my back? There's just no way. But if you stand in the middle of the field and you put an apple in your hand, most definitely that horse is coming to you. So it's friendship. There's no forcing. There's effort. And the horse will decide, that's a good idea. I'm going to go get this apple. And the horse will then let you put the bridle on or not. But if the first time it doesn't let you, that doesn't mean you just stop and don't do it ever again. You just keep working and forging and developing that relationship. But asking the more important question, why is it that that beautiful horse does not want you to put the bridle on? That's a worthwhile question. So if this is any experience within your life, why is it not aligning? Why is that? This is the worthwhile question. And this is what we are having an opportunity to analyze through a contemplative tool of self-inquiry, which we call meditation. Meditation is giving you the opportunity to look at your emotions, to look at your patterns, to look at your relationships, to look at your circumstance, to look at your endeavors, your future dreams, and establish the truth around them. And within that, there's an incredible simplicity that begins to emerge. Simplicity. You'd be amazed at how many conversations I've been having with people these days around that very concept. Simplicity. There is always an underlying thirst for that. And there's spikes within an individual's life where they want to ramp it up and become very busy, but sooner than later they attempt to slow it back down. So to slow it down while you're ramping it up is actually to have the balanced life. No matter where you go, you are working from the avenue of simplicity rather than complexity. Simplicity versus complexity has to be in one, because we are not able to get away from complexity. We're bound to complexity. But we are gifted, we are innately simple. Like, look at my arm. This is incredibly simple. I mean, I'm wearing quite simple clothing. This is a wooden mala. There's nothing too special about it. But when you start to look at how my arm is made and how it works together in order to move my finger, this is an incredibly complex order of events that occurs in order to make my finger move. So one simple task is incredibly complicated. So we have an opportunity to look at it from two perspectives: simplicity or complexity. And for meditation, we want to look at our practice of meditation from the simplest avenue possible. The simplest avenue possible. Simply, we are resting into the body and finding comfort. We tune ourselves with our breathing, and that's where we find our attention. We tune ourselves to the mind, and that's where we find concentration. Those three naturally occur. The body will naturally become comfortable. The breath will naturally draw your attention, and the mind will naturally concentrate itself on a single point or subject. And again, simply, the three will become one if you sit there long enough and place your overall attention on that experience of spaciousness. And as those three become one, what emerges from that space is a dynamic vibration of stillness. It is still, there's nothing happening, but it is incredibly vibrant. And that is consciousness mixing with the creative energy in order to manifest something. So what you are sitting and looking at is pure potential, vibrating in front of you, inside of you, all around you, waiting for the next piece of instruction. But what meditation is developing is the simplicity that there's no instruction that needs to be had at that moment in time, because you're sitting. So instead of forcing instruction, we simply rest and then wait for that experience to happen, which is an effortless effort of thought and emotion, which is then guiding us down our path in the perfect pace, the perfect position in order to experience it. So remember, we're canceling out now all the noise. No noise needed any longer. And just simply invoke that which is your personal experience. The noise is all of the great, what's the word I'm looking for? Advice that your loved ones and the people that you enjoy give you. They're great pieces of advice, but they lead you only so far. The rest has to come from you. And this is really a challenging thing for a human being, to rely on the fact that we already know. We just have to become restful enough in order to access it. So imagine comfort and relaxation is the avenue to all of the spiritual heights, all of the material heights, all of the emotional heights, all of the mental heights that we could possibly imagine. It comes from comfort and relaxation. The more comfortable, the easier it is to become clear within your mind. The more relaxed, the easier it is to allow things to flow through and around you. Something happened, it's okay, I'm relaxed. I'm comfortable with it. When we begin to clench in any way, shape, or form, this is a holding pattern that is emerging within the body, which is communicating with the nervous system, which is then processing an organization within the brain, which is then manifesting as a thought. The thought process is also linking back into the brain and creating all kinds of connections, which is then being expressed through the nervous system back into the body, which the body is then supporting those decisions that the brain is making based upon the mental state of the individual. So you see how relaxation is actually unwinding and untying all of those interesting little kinks and knots that we've produced for ourselves. It's not a bad thing. We did it on purpose. In purpose, for purpose. There was a reason for it. But now, quite potentially, that purpose and reason is no longer needed, so we can start to untie them, so that then we can start to make new connections, kinks, and knots in a more positive frame for yourself. Eventually, you will become so supple that there'll be no kink and no knot. It will just be a free-flowing stream of information. And that might be when you are much, much older from now. When you have done everything that you need to do and you're just sitting on the porch, meditating in the sun. Nothing left. So realize that the excitement levels that are occurring within you are pushing you towards those higher places, towards those experiences that you see. But we have to separate the illusion from the truth. And that is, once again, your meditation practice, is separating the illusion from the truth. What is the illusion and what is the truth? And it's a learning process. You are in that process. Divinely, you are breathing. Truly, divinity is moving in and out of your body. And the more we can create simplicity around that process, the longer the vibration will stay with us. The longer the vibration will stay. There's a concept called simply complicated. So within the complexity, you find your simplicity every single time. I'm sure you'll become one of the greatest consultants if you want to. Just walk into that room and just say, simply complicated. Coach them on that, walk out. That's all you got to do. Create simplicity within the complexity. Any questions or comments? Let's just open it up a little bit. We have this new microphone. You can take a moment, there's no rush. So as we're sitting and just allowing the questions to drop down or rise to the top, pay attention to your breathing. Take a deep inhale and then a full exhale. And feel what that is. Not as a scientific definition, but feeling for yourself what that is. And just keep a nice inhale, exhale, breathing. And begin to observe whether or not there is any resonance or truth to the concept of the breath being the bridge between what's occurring within the body, what's occurring within the mind, and what's occurring in consciousness, higher levels of consciousness. And see how the breath is now creating sensation on the inside but there's also a vibration sensation that happens on the outside, immediately around your body. So it's stimulating a magnetism inside of you, which is now emanating outwards into the direct and immediate field. So if you feel it, either internally, externally, or both, that means that you are now a part of every individual who's sitting in the room is doing that same thing. So the positivity that you feel, the well-being that you feel, the steadiness, the clarity, those are real things that are happening. You're actually feeling that, no matter what your mind is showing you. And for as many people in the room is as many times as it's multiplied. Multiplied. Which is great fortune for this room. And great fortune for this neighborhood. Because it goes beyond these walls. It's actually positively influencing Strathcona. Which is a great thing. Your effort of breathing and recognizing the simplicity, but the strength of what it does. So the Taoist masters, they come into the village and they sit and they do nothing and everything gets done. Through their efforts of mindfulness, through their efforts of observation, of allowing themselves to receive the information, not forcing a thinking pattern or process. Now this is a beautiful thing, really a beautiful thing. And it's within those simple inhales and exhales where you can gain the highest forms of insight. And that happens because your body is relaxed, which means it becomes a house. It becomes a vessel to receive that information. Almost like a conduit, the sender-receiver. So now we are sending out energy, but we're also receiving the energy. So it can come through as your intuition, and intuition can be either a thought flash, it can be a sensation, it can be an emotion. And what to do with all of this information as you're going out into the world? Well, it's to listen, it's to watch, it's to understand, but it's also to not take it on. So you have to buffer yourself a little bit. And that magnetism, as you inhale, exhale, every time you inhale, exhale, you are becoming stronger. The magnetism inside of you is making you stronger. It is this concept of the force. It is with you. It really is. Especially as you recognize that it is with you, that it is of you, that it is for you. Consciousness begins to expand. In the Buddhist practices, they talk about the monks going into the forest, just with a love and kindness meditation, to sit with all of the wild animals. The yogis do the same thing, out into the forest, sitting, closing the eyes. Many things could bite them, but nothing bothers them. Our very own Matthew Mylod does the same thing. He goes out into the jungle. I don't know if you guys know Big Redbeard Matt. He goes out into the jungle of wherever he is. And everyone thinks he's crazy, but he goes and he becomes one with the elements through trial and error. Now, one time I saw, he came actually to Mexico. He was in Belize, and then we met in Mexico. And just in an area of about this big, he had maybe 300 bites from something he didn't even know what it was. And he's just okay with it. Becoming one, not panicking, not alarming, just resting into it. Now, I'm not saying go out into the forest and do anything like that, but I mean, it's a jungle out here. This is good enough. So the beauty in understanding that everything is for you, not against you, no matter what, no matter how you feel about it, no matter how you feel about it in the moment. So if that which you are feeling is not congruent to the conversation that I'm having with you right now, well, then this is your opportunity to really look inside yourself and ask the question, why? It's a simple change. Something must change. Something must transform. Something is staying the same that is no longer supposed to be the same. It is expired. And this is the only reason why discomfort arises in that way. If you stick with the flow of the river, well then there is nothing that can ever bind long enough in order to give that intensity of discomfort. And that is a process, potentially a lifelong one. But even if you do not ever find the ultimate understanding of what we're talking about, every single step and stage along the way has a beautiful gift, an incredible insight, and an opportunity. So to take everything that you experience and turn it back in towards yourself and ask the question, who am I? Who am I in relationship to this environment, to this circumstance, to this moment? That is the art and the skill of meditation. Allowing your meditation practice to guide you. Your meditation does not need guidance. You are now the student when you sit in meditation. There's no controlling anything. Allow the technique to find your relaxation, your attention, your concentration, and your direction. Those 4 things: body, breath, mind, stillness, is simply direction, concentration, attention, and relaxation. And the meditation will then do the rest. The technique will take you to the door. The meditation will very, very pleasantly do the rest for you. So your effort, not your force, but your effort revolves around maintaining a conscious level of awareness within that meditation. So if the mind drifts off, and we've hit the first gong and you know that you're supposed to be in the body, well then you bring your mind back into the body. And then when we hit it again and you know you're supposed to be looking at your breathing, then you know that the mind's not supposed to drift. Your attention and awareness is not supposed to drift. It must be here. So the drifting is what pulls you away from this consistency, from this path, from this deepening level of understanding into. But let's let everything come to us in meditation rather than reaching out. Remember, nothing needs to be done. It's already been done. You're now sitting with your eyes closed. So sitting with the eyes closed, let's see what's happening in this present moment. Develop the ability that your awareness is not your mind, and your mind is not your awareness. Your awareness is learning how to relax, gain attention, gain concentration, and gain direction. Your mind is what is saying, psst, psst, come here. And you're like, what? Oh, okay. So no matter what the mind says to you, you are bored, you're uncomfortable, you are running out of time, you are almost 40, you're almost 50, You're almost 60. It doesn't matter what your mind says to you. You're almost 90. It doesn't matter. And then you will begin to really understand the beauty that exists within the meditation practice that has given it the weight and the buoyancy necessary to be around for so long. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That is serious weight and an incredible amount of buoyancy. Please close your eyes. So keeping the eyes closed, bring full deep breaths into the body. And take the opportunity to recognize what's happening. What's happening without you forcing it to happen. It is just simply happening. You are witnessing that which is happening. And understanding is coming from that. Keeping the eyes closed, bring your gaze into the space just there in front of you. And with soft intensity, maintain the integrity of that space. Again, becoming witness to what is happening. How do you maintain the quality of the space? What is the sensation? What is produced from the mind? Keeping the eyes closed, soften your gaze, and very slowly, very gently, allow the eyes to open. Just take a few moments, gazing in one spot or slowly looking around your environment just to experience, to feel the sensation of being filled up, inspired, and in the flow of your meditative experience. Now moving from this place, experiencing from this space, that's the art. The more you breathe, the stronger the magnetism is, that buffer, which maintains your equanimity, your peace, your tranquility, while you are doing all of the exciting things that you have going on in your life. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next Wednesday. Namaste.